Hello, everyone, and welcome to Coffee, Tea, You, and Me. I am super excited about today's episode. We're going to have so much fun today. We're going to be talking about a program I developed years ago, and I'm just continuing to make improvements on this program. And the whole goal of this program is to teach individuals and organizations how to literally get what they need to encourage a large amount of participation and engagement from their people. So if you belong to a social organization, a fraternal organization, a company, or any organization that you want to think about, this information is going to be very, very extremely useful for you, specifically now that most of us are doing business from our homes, or we're doing business during the time of COVID-19. And it's very, very important that we understand how to effectively engage with one another and to make sure that engagement is as high as it possibly can be. Now, of course, studies have shown throughout the years that engagement is the key to creating a high amount of productivity within any organization or any system, especially when people are involved. And guess what? People are involved in every organization, in every system, in every country, in every political process. There's always an involvement of people. And where there's an involvement of people required, you want a high level of engagement. You don't want to make excuses for why you can't do this and you can't do that and blah, blah, blah. I wish you could. You want to be able to get the maximum amount out of people that you work with, and you want to be able to contribute the maximum amount to organizations that you belong to. Now, there's a key word there called belonging. And I want you to really think about that word, and I want you to really, really begin to process what it means to belong to a community, to an organization, to an opportunity. How do you get that sense of belonging for the things that you're involved in your life right now? What does it feel like to you to know that there are people around you who literally have your back, who literally have your best intentions at heart? It's a tremendously powerful feeling. And when it's done well, we always come back to that organization with a sense of belonging, a sense of home, a feeling of connectedness. This is critically important for organizations to be able to drive and for leaders to be able to ensure it's happening in every organization that they're with. So we're going to talk to you today about the RAPapproach. The RAPapproach is a program and a system, a strategy I put together, years ago, again, to make sure that all organizations that I ever touch with, work with, participate in, have the best of the best when it comes to understanding how to create extremely high levels of engagement in their workforce, in their organizations, and in the plans that they have. And so I'm going to read a lot of it to you today, because I don't want to make any mistakes in terms of, what we're talking about and why we're talking about it. But I'm also going to throw a lot of questions at you. So, sharpen your pencils, get your paper out, get whatever you want to write down, this information down on, and get it out, get ready to go, because we're going to be throwing a lot of stuff your way. This is going to be a super engaging opportunity, a super, responsible way to use this time. And we're going to hopefully get out of here with some great information that you'll be able to use. More importantly, if you are following me on Facebook or you're following this on YouTube, definitely look at the chat. There's information in the chat that you can download about the RAPapproach. And if you are following me on LinkedIn, unfortunately, I can't comment directly from the StreamYard application that I'm using to create a document or create anything that you want to do. But what I'm going to do is probably try to log on to LinkedIn myself and find the live section that we're working in, and I'll try to post it there. That way, nobody gets left out. Everybody has an opportunity to participate. Everybody has an opportunity to play wherever they're watching this. This is the first time, by the way, that I am actually going to be broadcasting Coffee, Tea, You, and Me from LinkedIn. And so hopefully that's working out. People are enjoying it, and you're able to log on, able to see it, and all that kind of stuff. If not, then we got Houston, we have a problem, right? We want to make sure we fix that. So definitely, if you're coming on LinkedIn, you can communicate to me through the chat, but I can't communicate to you through the chat. So if you say something in LinkedIn, I definitely can see what's going on, figure out how to get involved, whatever that is, and pay attention to it. But the vice versa is not the case. I can't communicate back to you through LinkedIn. So I hope that you're not having any issues or any problems with logging on. I know I've wanted LinkedIn to add this piece to the pie for years, and they've been working on it, and they finally figured out, we're going to release this to the public. So finally we can go live on LinkedIn, and I realize now that I am in my live section. So I'll make sure I'm going to pause this because we don't want a whole bunch of noise going on, but I do want to be able to post stuff. So let's see if I can post. I did. I posted today's content right there. Now, what do you want to know about today's content? What's important to know about today's content is it's not just something that we're going to talk about this week. We're going to talk about the RAPapproach for the next 3 weeks. And when you look at the RAPapproach, what I want to come immediately to your mind is literally overall view of it. And if you look at the document that we put together for you guys today, right up front is a big picture. It's a picture of a group of people. And this group of people is obviously happy. They're obviously happy with themselves. They're obviously happy with each other. And they are able, and they represent a really, really good, diverse group of collection of professionals that may work together or in the same organization or in the same company. But when you look at the RAPapproach and what it really means, it's really about creating high levels of engagement in any social environment. It doesn't make a difference what the environment is. It's about making it happen in any and every social environment. And we're going to take a minute to make sure that before we get into too deeply, that people understand that it's critically important to look for engagement. It's critically important for teams. It's critically important for organizations to feel connected to one another in this way so that they can get their best work done. And we're going to share a little bit more about why that works and why that's important after the quick break that we're going to take. And check out this wonderful video that was done by my buddy David Hoff. And you'll take a look at what I'm saying. I love this video. It's a great opportunity. Again, welcome to Coffee Tea, You and Me. I am back. This is Marvin Powell. I am Coach Powell. I've been doing this presentation of this iteration of Coffee Tea, You and Me now since COVID-19 started. And I am well over the 100th show mark. So we've done at least 100 videos over the series of since COVID-19 started to help entrepreneurs, to help business leaders, to help creatives of all types begin to think about how they can do better, no matter what it is. We're talking about doing better. We're talking about increasing at three different levels, right? We're talking about increasing productivity. We're talking about increasing your focus, and we're talking about increasing your energy and bringing a tremendous amount of passion to what you do, so that what you do is literally something that you look forward to doing, literally something that other people look forward to having you do for them. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business professional, if you're in a career ladder, no matter where you are, you want to enjoy the process. You don't have time to waste on just getting the job done. You want to get it done with a level of perfection, with a level of excellence, with a level of high expectation, such that your contribution to whatever you're doing, I don't care if you're working on a home project or you're working on a project around the office or you're working on a project in your career or a project in your business, no matter what you're doing, you want to be able to put your best foot forward, and you want to receive the social rewards for having done so. So now this is what the RAPapproach is all about. It's making sure that people who are receiving the kind of social rewards that keep them wanting more, that help them keep coming back to the organization, to the group, to the team, help them keep coming back, knowing that there's an environment for them to grow into that's safe, that's engaging, that's fully participatory, and it's something that people are going to deal with and deal with well. I love this program, and one of the reasons why I created the program in the first place, which was I found long before the pandemic that people were basically isolated from other people, even in a shared space. And that isolation was causing people not to feel accepted, not to feel like they belong, not to feel like they are engaged, or not to actually be engaged. In fact, it was a great place to hide. Corporate America is a great place to hide your talents and gifts. If you have talents and gifts and you want to display them and you want everybody to know them and appreciate them, the worst thing you want to do is get a job, because when you get a job, you're basically there to do the thing that someone else wants you to do. But if you are in a career ladder, which is different than just having a job, you get a chance to express yourself. You get a chance to be accepted. You get a chance to then be rewarded warmly for your contributions. No matter what it is that you're contributing, you feel like there's an open environment where your ideas and your thoughts and the things that you want to see and do have a place to flourish. And this is key. Now, I can't stress this enough. It's key to being able to deal with some of the issues that companies and organizations and communities are dealing with all the time, and that is people are leaving in droves. Right now, all the economic indicators are coming back, and we're in a time that people are starting to call the Great Resignation. It means tons of professionals are opting out. They're leaving the workplace. They're deciding they could do something different, something better, something else other than what they might have been doing for the last 10, 15, sometimes 20 years, right? Think about what that costs in terms of intellectual property. Think about what that costs in terms of, the talent that's walking out the door in organizations and companies and so on and so forth. I have friends that I know who are, big contributors to their community. Everywhere they live, everything they do, they touch and they make things warm for people. They make it available for people, and they're really, really good at inspiring and uplifting people. But right now, they're all overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed because there's not enough others who are willing to step into leadership. There's not enough others who are willing to say, you know what, I'm willing to make some sacrifices of my time, of my energy, of my gifting and talents in order to see this organization thrive. And that's just not happening enough for organizations, as many organizations are out there that need the help. So now I want you to think about the thousands of associations and community-based organizations and fraternity organizations. And we're not even talking about the business organizations. Just talk about the service that the nonprofits may be doing in the universe, right? If those people are suffering from a lack of talent and a lack of people wanting to engage with them, why is that? And what is the cost of our society to that overall? Let's just think about it. If the Red Cross can't find the best of the best and keep the best of the best, working in their jobs, doing the things that organization stands for in order to move forward, what happens to the community? When the Salvation Army can't do that, what happens to the community? How about Goodwill? How about some of these? How about any of the national community-based organizations, right? Or national, what do they call those? Oh my God, community partnership organizations, right? That work with and inside of government entities and nonprofit organizations and for-profit organizations coming together in a collaborative way. What happens when they can't find people to do the work that is required in order for their agendas to happen, or whatever? I'm thinking about community foundations too. What happens when the national community foundations and the smaller community foundations and the grant-making organizations can't find board members, and they can't find staff members, and they can't keep quality people around long enough to be effective in what they're doing? How does that impact our society? I promise you, it's not a good look. It's not a good thing. And so we need to do better to make sure that people feel engaged. We want to make sure that people feel like their environments that they're in is a safe place for them to make contributions. Now, I know there are a lot of reasons why people don't feel engaged. A lot of reasons why people don't feel like they belong to something. And if you look at the RAPapproach, the RAPapproach is really a collective of three separate ideas that come together in how you behave and how you perform with the people that you're working with. And these three separate ideas, I'm going to come back to them over and over and over again over the next couple of weeks, all connect to one another, and they create what I like to call social leverage, and in a way that is so specific to human beings. To not use it really makes no sense. To not use the tools that we're going to share with you over the next few weeks to help you and your organization move forward and help your teams move forward, whether you are a player or a leader on the team, in the community. No matter what you're doing, whatever your contribution is, no matter where you see, understanding the RAP approach will make you better. Understanding the RAP approach and then using the tools and techniques that we're going to share with you over the next couple of weeks I guarantee it will make you better. Let's talk about why we need it in the first place and why it's so important that I thought that we needed to create a new system, a new strategy in order to relate to one another and make things better in our organizations. The systems and strategy we're now using in organizations all over the place simply do not work. There's never been a time in history where people have suffered so much isolation, so much seclusion at home and in the workplace. The work of my friend, famed psychologist John Cacioppo, reminds us that we have reached epidemic rates of loneliness everywhere in the world, specifically in the Western world. So we're talking about the United States and we're talking about the UK, have record numbers of loneliness. And this is before the pandemic. And those record numbers of loneliness is causing illness. It's causing mental, emotional, and social illness really fast. And those mental, emotional, social illnesses, you know what they turn into? Physical issues. Social pain and emotional pain turns into physical pain. And there's lots of research on this. But people who deal with prolonged stress, right, and isolation is a prolonged stress. If you're in the workplace and people just keep walking past you, never say hi, never connect to you, never invite you to meetings, or when you go to meetings, you get to be you're content to be a fly on the wall. You're never engaging, so no one's really knowing how you are, who you are, what you're all about. It's impossible for people to get along with you, relate to you, because that the social mechanism that are required, the communication strategy is required, all of that has to work together in order to make you feel connected, in order for you to give your best and feel like you have something to share and that's meaningful, and that's relevant, that's significant. And so when you can't do that because of whatever reason, and there are lots of reasons why I know most of us feel uncomfortable sometimes sharing our thoughts, sharing our ideas, or engaging even in an organization because we feel like it's a hostile environment, which is a whole different ballgame. We're going to cover a little bit of that today. But the most important situation, the most important thing that I could think of when it comes to truly understanding what the problem is for people is just knowing that if we're going to have to change sort of some of our thinking. We're going to have to change our thinking as, for teams. We're going to have to change our thinking for family members. We're going to have to change our thinking for individual producers and companies, because people need something that they don't have. And the something they don't have is called social nourishment. Social nourishment is the key to making sure people have what they need emotionally and socially, so that they can feel that they're in a healthy place, so they can feel like they're balanced, so they can feel like they belong, and they can feel like they can give their contribution and not have to feel like something bad could happen to them, something awful might happen to them. The brain is hardwired for fear. It's hardwired for flight. It's hardwired for freeze, right? So you might have heard that, fight, flight, or freeze. You might have heard that the 3 F's that happens when people are under stress. And when your brain is under stress, it is literally impossible for your brain to perform the higher functions that your brain is supposed to be able to perform. One of those higher functions is empathy. It's hard for you to feel for others when you're in what we call an emotional hijack for yourself. The bottom line is when people start to think about how they participate in organizations, what they say, what they do, how they engage with each other, the last thing you want to do is put someone else in stress mode. The person may already be walking around in stress mode and you don't even know it. But when you add to it, you create more and more and more stress. This stress, again, this emotional pain, the psychological pain, can turn into quite easily to physical pain and cause your body to start, your organs to start to malfunction. And it increases the aging process and starts to slow down, your systems. Now, I'm no medical doctor, nor am I a psychologist. I'm just saying what I know from the studies that I've shared with people over the years and how I've seen stress play out in the workplace for professionals that I've been able to work with and talk to. And I'm sure that there is more than enough evidence to suggest that we have to do better. If we want people to bring their A game, right, we have to create environments that allow them to bring their A game. We want people to feel connected. We want them to feel plugged in. We want them to deliver the highest level of performance possible. Then we have to, as an organization, as leaders of organizations, and we have to provide the environment where people have what we call the RAP approach. People have to have professional respect. They have to have appropriate affection, and they have to have authentic praise. If you can create an environment where these things exist largely and they permeate everything that the organization does, respect, affection, and praise, professional respect, appropriate affection, authentic praise. When this happens in organizations, you find that people tend to thrive in those organizations and they do the best that they can. Those organizations end up having worldwide success. They end up being phenomenal places for people to work. They don't even question whether or not going to get the bump that year or rewarded that year for one of the best places to work, right? That's not even a question because people are going to make sure they're nominated and they're going to make sure that they want their organization represented because they are so excited that they get to go to work there. They want to make sure everybody else knows this is a great place to work, right? Don't you want that for your organization? Don't you want that for your team? Don't you want people to be so excited and happy that, because they don't, by the way, they don't do it for the money. They do it for the social rewards. And once you understand what the social rewards are and how to use the social rewards correctly, then what's going to happen is you're going to get people all fired up about working with your organization. They're going to be so happy and so satisfied. Then you're going to see your recidivism rates kind of drop. You're going to see all that, costs that you would be spending trying to search and recruit and develop new people. It's going to be dramatically lost. So that means that's more money than you can put into the people you already have that are already doing the things that you want them to do. And so organizations that don't think like this that we're talking about right now, they cannot last. They're going to die. And we're going to see them get sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker, the organization itself, until it no longer it ceases to exist. Because organizations that do function in this way, the ways we're describing in this training, are going to be able to thrive. They're going to be able to move forward. They're going to be able to continue to grow. Now, there's a paradox that I want to share with you in the RAP approach. And it's a paradox of receiving, because respect, affection, and praise only works well when it's given and it is received. And it's given in two different worlds, right? It's given by the individual, it's given by the organization, but it's also received by the individual in the organization. So there's a perfect balance that you want to look for, right? If respect, affection, and praise, right, the RAP approach, is something that's given to someone individual to individual, right, and it's received well, it's given and it's received well, that's a balanced relationship, right? But if you're trying to give someone or participate with someone in a way that you can say you're following the RAP principles, which we'll cover in a minute, and they're not receiving them, that's the very definition of an imbalanced relationship, right? And that relationship might be a typical work relationship, or it might be what we call an entitlement relationship, where one person or one group is receiving the benefits while the other person is not. It's not a win-win situation. But a win-win situation is when the reception of whatever the benefits are of the social rewards are shared and received well. That's the whole goal. That's what you want to have happen. If you look into the RAPapproach, you're gonna go deep into that, the quadrants and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to share that with you, but I do want you to understand that it's critically important that you do this well. So let's talk today for the rest of our time about professional respect. Next week, we're going to get into appropriate affection. And then the week after that, we're going to get into praise, right? What does that praise part look like? So if you look at professional respect, and if you look at, I never number the pages on some of the things I'm working with, but this is the page that shares and introduces professional respect within the RAPapproach program. And you're going to see some images there. You're going to see the image of a man tipping his hat. You're going to see the image of a sailor saluting, and you're going to see the image of Aretha Franklin. Let's talk about Aretha Franklin. Aretha Franklin performed this song, Respect, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. And at the time she performed this song, everyone was in love with the lyrics, specifically women were in love with the lyrics of this song, because the lyrics called out to literally what we all wanted. Everybody wants respect. Nobody wants to be disrespected in any regard. But I want to challenge Aretha and people of her generation, and at that time, I don't think they went far enough into saying and displaying what respect is really about. Now, let me show you what I'm talking about. I discovered in taking a deeper analysis, and this is literally after I wrote the RAPapproach. Now I'm going back and I'm writing some more about doing some research on and providing resource materials for people, so that whoever wants to come behind me, study this some more, will have what they need to really, really embrace this and move forward. So when you think about what respect truly is, there's two definitions that matter. First definition is this one. It's about admiration. A feeling of deep admiration for someone based on their unique abilities, qualities, or achievements. A feeling of deep admiration for someone based on their unique abilities, qualities, or achievements. A feeling of deep admiration based on someone else's abilities, qualities, and achievements. It is not a general overall, I respect you because you are you. That's not what respect is. Respect is a feeling of deep admiration for a specific quality, achievement, or ability of another person. Let's look at the second definition. The second definition is a deep regard for someone else's feelings, wishes, rights, or traditions. Again, another feeling, a feeling of deep regard for someone else's feelings, wishes, rights, or traditions. Respect is huge. And if you understand what it truly means, you'll also know that it's hard to do. It's very difficult to have a feeling of deep admiration and high regard for these 7 qualities: someone else's abilities, someone else's qualities, someone else's achievements, someone else's feelings, their wishes, their rights, and their traditions. To have respect or deep admiration and a regard for all of that you might find in one person or a group of people, very, very difficult to do without some preparation, right? Because how do you have a high regard or deep admiration for something that you don't know, that you haven't been introduced to properly, that you haven't inquired and done some research and some study into, and maybe had some exposure to for yourself? How do you do it? So can you say that you actually respect a stranger? Is there something unique and special about that person that you can say you respect when you don't know them? It's a tricky question, isn't it? You know, how many times have people said to you, I know they said it to me on many occasions, I respect your thoughts, Marvin, I respect your opinion, but I respect where you're coming from, I like your ideas, but, you know, how many times have you heard that in your life, in your career, in your business? How many times have you have people, you know, giving you that I respect you, but, and everything they say next out of their mind says that something about me you don't hold in high regard and you do not admire. Something about my position, something about my thoughts, something about my ideas, the qualities I have, the character I have, the culture I have, the traditions I'm coming from, something about whatever I'm displaying or sharing or trying to hope you don't respect, as a matter of fact. You don't admire it and you don't hold it in high regard, which means you don't respect it. Respect means something about someone or their organization or their groups that you hold in high regard and or admire. If you can't work up some love for something that somebody shares or does or is about or comes from, if you can't work out some passion for something that, you know, that they've done or shared or achieved that you know about, then you can't then say you respect them. Now, I'm going to challenge you with this. So I know everybody said, well, I respect everybody. Heard it all. Had been there, done that. I've heard that. Yes, I respect everybody equally, right? Everybody likes to say that. All lives matter and everybody is important. And And you might think that that's general and that's overall an overarching kind of idea and thought process. And it may make sense, especially when you say it. But think about how it feels to be lumped into the category of everyone else. When people say, I respect everyone, but no one gets to feel special or treated well by you. In fact, the group doesn't get to feel special or treated well by you. But you want to say, I respect everyone. Do you? And I'm not challenging this to make anyone challenge their paradigm, but I'm challenging this to make people think about what they're saying when they say they respect others. If you respect my common humanity, I can accept that, right? You can respect the fact that, you know, the genetic qualities that my parents shared with one another in order to create an opportunity for me to even be born, and the amazing process of how my cells came together and created this unique person that is me, right? Is something to be awed at. You know, really it's something to really appreciate, because it didn't have to happen, right? I didn't have to be here through that biological process of conception and birth. And I didn't have to make it through my young adult life. I didn't have to make it through my teenage years. I didn't have to make it through my childhood, through all the perils that I've had to negotiate, you know, back and forth here and there in order to figure out how to get to the person that I am now. So I could see, if you look at the gray hairs and you go, okay, that gentleman is a survivor, right? If you look at that, they go, okay, he's a survivor, and I respect that, because a lot of people didn't make it this far. A lot of people. That's an achievement, right? You can say I respect the overall human achievement that didn't require anything special of me except for the genetic workings and the social workings and the economic and environmental workings of my existence allowed me to be and continue to be, right? So that's very, very important. To be able to respect the common humanity of another person is the first key. So a lot of people say, well, I really love what I do, but I don't like people. If you do what you do for the benefit of people, but you don't like the people, you have yourself a problem. If you do what you do and you don't like the people that you work with, again, you have yourself a problem. If you can't find a way to admire, right, and have in high regard something around the people that you work with, again, Houston, we have a problem. And that problem needs to be worked on. It needs to be developed. There's a skill set that I'm going to suggest you need to redevelop and work in to fix it out, to fix it. So Albert Einstein has a wonderful quote, and I love this quote. He says, I speak to everyone in the same way, whether he is a garbage man or the president of a university. That's cool, Albert. I get that. You want to speak to everyone the same way. You want to speak to everyone like you respect them. But herein lies the problem with Einstein's quote. What if everyone's not speaking your language? What if everyone doesn't understand the language that you speak? What if everyone doesn't appreciate that you don't speak their language? Do you think that's respect? Do you think you can define it for just yourself and say, because I do it this way, then that is what respect is? Or do you have to look a little deeper, right? Do you have to dig a little deeper into another group, another person, another way of thinking and being, and really begin to understand what respect means to them before you do that? Churchill says, I'm fond of pigs, dogs. I'm fond of pigs. Dogs look up to us. Cats look down on us, and pigs treat us as equals. That's why he likes pigs. Pigs treat us all equally, like we don't matter, right? Cats look down on us. Dogs look up to us. I thought it was an interesting quote. Again, one of these things that, we hear from these great leaders of what they think about the universe and what they think about the world. But who's asking the question from the perspective of the dog, the cat, the pig? Churchill's perspective here might be questioned. When he says the cats look down on us. Does the cat feel like he's looking down on you? Don't know. Dogs look up to us. Well, there might be some indication socially that dogs do look up to us, but maybe they're just, they're happy to be around us because we know the longer they stay around, it's eventually we're going to throw some food at them. Who knows? I'm not saying that that's the case, but I am saying, who knows what the dog's thinking? Maybe dog psychologists might figure it out. Maybe you have some pet, social psychologists who got all this stuff worked out. But I don't think it's Churchill. I don't think he was the one that kind of knew exactly what the animals were feeling in order to make that kind of statement. Now, I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying there are different perspectives. There's different perspectives on everything, different perspectives even on respect. And how do we say we respect someone when we don't even know their perspective? George Bernard Shaw says youth is wasted on the young. And I totally get his position, or what I think his position might be, because a lot of times when we're young, we run around doing a lot of things, here and there, lighting up things, doing this thing, going here, checking out that, trying to do this, trying to do the most, right? Do everything we possibly can do because we got a truckload of energy and nothing that's standing on our way telling us we can't do it, right? So we're trying to do everything. Some things good, some things not so good, right? Those of us who survive our youth, you know, maybe we look back on it, we think, oh, we really should have done some things differently or done some things better. I don't know about you, but when I look back on my youth, I go, wow, Shaw was absolutely right. That was a whole lot of wasted time that I could have taken and used with all that energy that I wish I had right now and focus it on something that was going to put me in a better position than I am right now in my own future, right? But I can't go back. Can't take that look back. Can't. But I have to think about that. When you're dealing with young people, they don't know what they don't know. Young professionals, they don't know what they don't know. And they may not even appreciate you telling them because you haven't necessarily earned the respect that you need to earn from them in a way that works for them in order for you to then give them the guidance and direction that you might want to give them. So I say this to say young people, and I say to older members of the workforce or the community or the organization, right? You both have to work on your communication strategy so that you can make sure that you're sharing with one another what it is that you admire and hold in high regard to one another. I wish I could just throw the word respect out the window because it doesn't mean what we've always thought it to mean. It means I hold somebody in high regard and I admire them, or I admire them and I hold them in high regard. Anything outside of that is disrespect. It's not respect. Maybe there's a middle ground someplace or some word that I don't even know, right? But if the choice is to respect you or disrespect you, I'd like to choose to respect you. I like to choose to be respected by you. And so, one hand or the other hand, it's clear. I listened to a show just the other day, and there was a show that a bunch of African Americans, I can't remember the name of the show, were sharing their experience, and not African Americans, there was British Africans who were here in America, and they were becoming a part of the Hollywood machine. They were doing just a great job. And some of the famous names, David Oyelowo and so many more, that came from England, studied under the Royal Academy, and were now saying they were finding better opportunities to work in America than they were to work in England. And so that's why they were here, taking up all the parts that I think a lot of African Americans sometimes resent, that these people are taking up these parts and all that kind of stuff. But that was brought out in the documentary as well. But the key thing I want to mention here is one young lady in the documentary said, the oppression that we as minority members face in the UK is much different than the oppression that they face in America. In America, the oppression is right up front. Basically, they know they're being disrespected. No question about it, right? And in the UK, not so much. It's kind of under the cover. They don't really see the disrespect. And so when the thing doesn't work out, when they can't get what they want to get, they can't do the things they want to do, they fail off after audition, after audition, after audition, and they realize that something's going on, but they just can't see it. They don't know what it is. In America, it's a little more blatant, a little more obvious of why they're not getting the opportunities, because quite frankly, the marketing professionals will say, this won't sell to a black audience, or this won't sell to a white audience. You won't sell in this movie, so we're not going to put you in. And that's just what it is. They will straight up tell people that kind of stuff. And so they're not questioning, how to get around it, because they can face it. They know what to do to deal with it. But in UK, you can't see it. So how do you defend yourself, or how do you help yourself? How do you even negotiate with a system that's never telling you the truth, really, about what's going on, and you don't know how do you deal with that, right? So this is what disrespect causes. When people are disrespected and they not even know why or how they're being disrespected, it's traumatic. It's very difficult to figure out, well, where is the disrespect coming from, and how is it happening, and why don't I feel like I'm at home? Why don't I feel like I'm connected to this group or this organization? Why don't I feel like I'm an outsider? Right? These are things that are very, very important. Mahatma Gandhi says, I cannot conceive of a greater loss than the loss of one's self-respect. So while you're about the business of trying to figure out what you have a high regard for or admiration in others, my suggestion to you is you first need to figure out what you have a high regard for and an admiration for about yourself. What part of yourself do you love? What things do you do that you truly, truly not just enjoy, but love the fact that you do it? What do you enjoy most about who you are and the thoughts of your trajectory about what you might become? It was this thought that made me create True Voice. For those of you who participated in the conference a couple weekends ago, it was a 5-hour, demonstration of everything you need to know to really find out what makes you tick and what makes other people tick, and being able to cross that boundary between what you experience yourself and what they experience and how those things can come together. And the whole purpose of True Voice is to be able to help people figure out how to bridge that gap, how to really, really come close and get connected, and then figure out what they might be able to do to respect each other's particular talents and gifts, but work together collaboratively to make that happen. So it's very, very important, because if you can't get there, if you can't nurture your own self-respect, if you can't figure out what you love about yourself, then you got some work to do. That's the thing number one. You got to figure out how you're going to nurture your own self-respect. Now, there's all kinds of suggestions in the training, which I suggest you read. But one of the things I need you to think about doing is taking a self-inventory. If you had to write down your greatest gifts, what are they? And why do you think they're great? Your greatest talents, your greatest capabilities, your greatest skill sets, right? What are, now, I want you to try to, when you do this exercise, just spend about half an hour just spitballing to yourself, brainstorming for yourself. What is amazing about me? Answer the question. What can I do better than most people? What do I think better than most people? What do I have that's better than most people? What is it about me that makes me great? Answer that question and begin to, again, think about the be, do, have perspective, right? Who am I, right? What do I have? What can I do? Think about that. And that's going to help you with this exercise. When it's all said and done, you're going to have lists of ideas and thoughts. Some of them are going to be redundant and they're going to run together and all that kind of stuff. I don't care. Just keep writing until you're exhausted. Set the clock for half an hour and go. Get as much as you can on the page as you possibly can about the wonders of you. And then I want you to craft it into a nice little document, maybe 3 pages if you need to. Take as many times as you want, but make sure it's well written and well conceived and well organized, right? And then share it with somebody who you literally love. And ask them, what about this did you get right? And what about this did you get wrong? What's their perspective on those ideas that make you you? I promise you, your perspective about who you are and what you're all about and what you do, that's wonderful. And their perspective about who you are and what you're going to be different. And those differences are going to give you ideas and opportunities to improve, maybe ideas and opportunities, something to talk about, something to share with one another as to why you think this differently or why you think differently about that thing. And it's going to grow your relationship. I promise you, you'll get stronger if you're open to accepting the feedback. And we'll talk a little bit more about that from somebody else's. The next thing you want to do, once you've figured out, what's great about you, and then you've been able to express it in a safe way with somebody you love, the next thing is you want to start sharing it with people that you work with, people that you depend on, and they depend on you to get something done, whether that's in an organization you belong to or team you belong to or whatever. Because here's the deal. When people know you and they know you, they know what to expect from you. And when you know they know you, They know that even if you say something ridiculous, like I promise I'll do blah, 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 they know that you're not going to do it. And you're not going to be let down when it doesn't happen. They know because your heart of heart, your intentions was to do the right thing or to make the promise and keep the connection and do the things you said you were going to do. I know that was your intention. However, things happen to people, right? You have family issues. You have issues that are related to, geography or budget or something other thing. And something could come along anytime you want to take you out of a promise or commitment that you might have made to somebody else or a team. And instead of trying to come back to them going in a safe face, you can just tell them what happened. Right? This happened. And they're going to go, okay, we knew you, we know you, we know that possibility existed, that something like that would happen. That's the only reason why you wouldn't say. And they give you the benefit of the doubt. Why? Because they know you. However, when you don't share the best of you, what you're capable of, what you're willing to commit to, what you want to do with others, they don't really know what they can count on you for. And they're not really necessarily good at even asking. How do we make sure that how many of you have ever sat down with somebody you work with and asked them this question? How can I get the best out of you? Right? It sounds ridiculous, right? But don't we need to know the answer to that question? So, you might not be able to ask that question directly, specifically to somebody you don't really know, right? A stranger. But wouldn't you want to know the answers anyway? So how do you figure it out? How do you begin to engage in dialogue and conversation in a way that's going to bring out the light in someone else? It's going to bring out their gifts, their talents. That's why I wrote True Voice. And if you'd like to have it, definitely hit me up in the chat. Let me know you want it. And I will send it to you. I'll make sure you have your own personal copy of True Voice. But if I don't hear from you, you don't talk about it, then you don't want it. But that's a way of it really, really sitting down with somebody and beginning to understand them in the deepest, most meaningful way possible so that they can't ever say that you didn't know what you needed to know to truly respect them. It takes a little time, about 20 minutes, to do a True Voice interview, a good True Voice interview with someone. It doesn't have to be more than that, but now you got to be laser focused. You got to be practiced at it. I've done maybe 1,000 True Voice interviews with people over the years, and they always work, and they always make people feel understood, and they always make people feel like they're deeper and they have a deeper connection with me, which is something I can leverage. So I want you to think about that. How do you create more leverage using the RAPapproach? Next week, we're going to get into appropriate affection and all that kind of good stuff. And then we're going to start talking about the kind of praise that's authentic, because that's what's going to require kind of praise to do something. I want to take a break before we're going to delve even deeper into some of the ideas and notions that have come about with just respect alone. But I want to take a pulse for those of you who are out there who are listening right now. How many of you all feel respected in this way? You are admired and of high regard by those that you report to. How many of you feel like those that you work with, that may supervise you or maybe on a team with you, truly admire something about you, truly have the best thoughts about you in their minds? When they think of you, a smile comes on their face because they're thinking of somebody who to them is honorable and somebody who is enjoyable to be around. How many of you feel like that? How many of you feel like you're receiving that gift from others? People are sharing with you. Not only do they respect you, but what is it about you that they admire and hold in high regard? I know the answers before you begin to answer, but I'd love for you, if you're willing to, put the information in the chat, where you are with that. And, I know a lot of you out there, you don't have to share if you don't want to share, but if you would, that would be interesting. If you're interested in sharing, your thoughts about how others have made you feel, I'd really be interested in that. If others have made you feel like they truly admire you, they truly care about you in the workplace or in your business position or in the chamber of commerce that you belong to or wherever you're doing, if people have made you feel like you belong, you're a part of this thing, and that's been evident to you, I'd like to know about it. It's okay if you don't want to share, it's okay too. But understand in the sharing, it does a lot for you. Does a lot for the listening audience. It does a lot for you in order to say, this happened to me and it was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. I will tell you, when I first joined a group, and I won't mention the name of the group, but it's a networking group. When I first joined the group, I read all of the information about the organization. In fact, I started even reading the books that the organization produced about how to become better networkers. I read them all, right? And I learned everything that I think that was there for me to learn from this organization's perspective about the art and science of networking. And I began to craft my own thoughts after practicing and trying to do everything they suggested that I try to do. And I recognized as a result, there were some things missing that would never jive with human beings. Human beings will never be as mechanical and as technical in their approach to relationships with others. Because there's something there that is very difficult to account for, easy to talk about, but different to account for. It's difficult to account for emotion and the emotional quality of a moment. In fact, I know that we do everything in the UK and America to disregard emotion and feelings as much as we possibly can so that we can get things done. So that we can feel like we're being productive. The more we bring feelings in, now they're more cloudy. The area becomes the more we have to think about, pain and suffering and anguish. But that's something that it really slows down the processes of getting things done, right? And I know how, if you're an introvert like me, you probably think like that, like why do we talk about feelings? They don't matter, but they do. Because humans matter and humans have feelings, then the feelings have to matter. And that's part of the problem of why we don't even know what respect is, because when we try to express it, the version that comes out of us is just this going through the motions expression. It's not the actual admiration and high regard. I remember looking at the show Hamilton. I don't know how many of you have seen the show, but it's an amazing show. And one of the things that happens in the show is that Alexander Hamilton writes letters to William Burr and back and forth. And they would sign the letters, something to the effect of, "Your loyal and humble servant." And now I want you to imagine inviting someone and challenging someone on their fundamental character, and eventually inviting them to a duel that's going to end one of their lives. And the letters back and forth and the communication back and forth always signed, "Your loyal and humble servant, Alexander Hamilton," or "Your loyal and humble servant, William Burr." Now, I recognize we're talking about maybe the early 1800s when this was going on. Okay. All right, maybe early 1776. So maybe the late 1700s or the early 1800s when this was happening back and forth, right? I recognize that. But just think about what we now think about respect as a result of how we communicate and treat each other. Do we even think of each other as servant master type of relationships? Do we even think of each other as, I owe you something because you're a human being. I should say something that reminds you that I recognize the common humanity in both of us, even if I'm calling you to a duel. There's something to be said for the level of communication that they had when they had to stop and think to write it down, what they were actually saying versus what we tend to spit out of our mouths without very much regard for how what we say and do might impact the social and emotional lives of others immediately in a negative direction. I sit on the task force for Fairfax County to rename or potentially talk about renaming Lee Highway and Stonewall Jackson Highway, or Stonewall Lee or Jackson Lee Highway that run through Fairfax County. And the task force job is not to change the names. The task force job is to recommend the names that we want to change it to, if we want to change them at all, to the Board of Supervisors. Okay. So in this debate that we've had for weeks, I've had to hear people discuss respectfully their ideas about these names. We've had to look at the votes of countless of numbers of faces that nobody knows or recognizes, but we consider them a mass number of people who, seems like want to hold on to these names, and recognize that there is a large contingency of people that want to hold on to these names. Do I consider that action respectful? Personally, no. And I don't think there's a way to separate emotion from the discussion. I don't think there's a way to separate the pain associated with showing appreciation and regard to Civil War leaders who showed so little regard and appreciation for so many of our then slaves, non-citizen, Africans, not necessarily American, for the people who were enslaved at the moment, the disregard they showed by fighting to break away from the Union and preserve whatever way of life that they thought they were going to preserve, or whatever the reasons were that they were engaged into warfare. I can't say that that was somehow respectful. And I can't say, and again, this is just my opinion, holding on to their names on monuments or streets or anything that, again, holds them up as somebody we should celebrate and honor. I can't consider that a respectful act. In fact, it's quite disrespectful in my point of view. And so when we make moves to make changes, I know we're going to be dealt with people who, or ideas where people say they respect the pain and the suffering, the anguish of the minority members of the community who might have to experience and be reminded on a regular, consistent basis of how they've been treated in our country. You can say it, but because you don't know it, and you don't even appreciate the feelings associated with having to experience this, you can't say you respect it. You can't say you respect those people. In fact, you are disrespecting those people. And everybody who was offended probably shouldn't be offended by changing the names of these highways or these roads. And if they are, we all have a lot more communication to do, because I find it very difficult to admire someone and to hold in the high regard someone who feels so connected to these names that they're willing to allow others to feel suffering and pain and damage. That I can't respect. And in a way, and I totally understand. And that's the reason why, because the law of reciprocity states that if you want something to happen, you want to give something from someone, you have to be willing to give something to them. You have to be willing to put your effort and energy into it. And I'm willing to put my effort and energy into people to try and figure out a way to respect, to admire, and hold their thoughts and opinions and ideas in high regard. I'm willing to attempt to do that because I do want to earn their respect in return. But in order for them to get that respect in return, they're also going to have to be willing to come around and see things through my eyes and then tell me what they see that they appreciate, that they have then accepted to be the truth, right? That I see in the situation that I see and the feelings that I have are vitally important, or I'm being disrespected. There is no other way about it. It's not about disagreement. It's not about agreement or disagreement. It's about understanding. So I'll say all this to say, the reason why I wrote the RAPapproach is that I know we don't even know what respect is, and we don't give it to each other in any way that's going to be useful or meaningful. And I like to change that. I like to do different. I like to be different. I like to be a part of the change where we learn to actually respect one another, actually pay attention to one another in a deeper, more meaningful way, in a way that engenders and creates an atmosphere where we can engage and feel safe and feel comfortable. At the same time, that's when our brains can be really working and we can really deliver our best and we can be the best. But we have to set the environment up so that that environment is conducive to our growth and development and our overall happiness and sustainability. If we can't do that, and I know that we can, then, it's a world of hurt. And I hate to leave you guys on that note, but know that next week we're going to be talking about affection and how do you share it appropriately? Because we've opted for appreciation, and appreciation and affection, well, my friends, they're not the same thing. If you like the show, if you like what we talked about and what we're sharing with one another, do me a favor. Don't keep this a secret. Share it with other people. Tell other people about Coffee Tea, You and Me with Coach Powell. Make sure that they know that we're talking about hard-hitting issues, ideas that can move our society and our world forward. We want to make sure that every small business, every small women-owned, minority-owned business has the tools, the techniques they need to grow. And if we're doing a great job, let me know. Give me a thumbs up, all that kind of good stuff. If we're not doing a great job, let me know that too, because I'm interested in the feedback. I don't want to sit here and talk to myself and talk to a group of people and, blah, blah, blah. I don't want that. I want connection. I want engagement. And I want to make sure that we're talking about things that matter to you. So if you have topics or ideas or conversations or things that you want to hear about, put them in the chat. Let me know. I'm interested in what you're interested in, and I'm interested in hearing your feedback about it. So definitely put that information in the chat and let's talk about it. I've had a great time today. It was a great show. I enjoyed myself tremendously. It is now an hour and 15 minutes, I think we've been at this. And I'm going to let you guys go. If there's any other questions, I hope you had a great time. Oh, by the way, I'm going to be doing a special Kwanzaa show in a couple of weeks. And it's going to be about UJAMA, which is cooperative economics. Hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys tune in. I'm looking forward to seeing you. Had a great time. This is Coach Powell signing off.